Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sex Education panel. I'm Gina Moore-Barrett. I work at Netflix, and I'm very excited to be here with George Robinson, who plays Isaac in Sex Education.
Oh, unnecessary. Thank you.
Laurie Nunn, the creator, writer, and executive producer of Netflix's award-winning Sex Education. And Chinenye Ezeudu, who plays Viv in Sex Education. So really excited today to be talking about and discussing the role of diversity and inclusion in the globally loved show, from the casting to key storylines and filming on set. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations for season 3. I work at Netflix, so I watched it ages ago and I loved it and was very excited for people to see it. So congratulations, you did a great job. I want to first sort of talk about what is new for season 3 for your characters. I'm assuming that everybody would have seen it, no pressure. Awkward if you haven't, to be honest, but if you haven't, go and watch it. Let's sort of talk about what's new for your character first, George, in Sex Education.
Oh gosh, that was very loud. I suppose that with Isaac is his developing relationship with Maeve at the caravan site. They've had some time to get to know each other. Having nice little breakfasts at their caravan and just getting to know each other a little bit more. And obviously the voicemail is addressed. Let's put it that way.
And Chinenye, what about you for Viv?
Viv goes through a lot this season. She has a new boyfriend, Eugene, who's beautiful.
Oh my god. Honestly, the most
Everyone's like, yeah,
objectively
yeah. 10 out of
attractive
10,
man
10 out of
I've ever
10,
seen.
10 out of
She
10.
deserves.
She kind of falls out with Jackson and then comes back together to kind of save the day. She kind of becomes a snitch this season. But she's fine, and she does the right thing at the end, so please like her.
She's the hero.
Yeah,
Hero.
she is. Laurie, for you, what were the most significant themes explored in this new season?
So it's interesting in the writing process because the themes don't tend to sort of reveal themselves until you get to the end, and then you can kind of like look back through at all of the storylines and you realize that these sort of themes have appeared. And I think the main one for Series 3 is really about shame and about how it can be an incredibly dangerous emotion when it's sort of weaponized, particularly when people are young, and if you are made to feel ashamed about certain things when you're sort of in your kind of childhood years or your teenage years, I think it can kind of continue to haunt you like throughout life. Yeah. So I think you can find elements of that in all of the storylines. I feel like something's banging on me, and I don't know what it is. Do you think it's an earring or something? All right. Okay. Yeah, there it is.
Hold for the earring, please.
Oh my God, I'm going to take them out. You continue.
Okay. Yeah, not me just staring at you. Okay. So for each of you, do you have any favourite moments from season 3? I'll put you on the spot, Chinenye. Do you have a favourite moment from season 3?
I have so many favourite moments on set. It's like choosing your favourite child. Like, you have one, but you never say. I think one of my favourite moments on set was when I was doing the scene with Jemima Kirk, and we were sat down, and she was kind of like talking at me, and I was just trying to like find a place to sit. I don't know if you remember that, and I was like, this is not right. So I improvised that, and I had a really good time doing that with Jemima. And I think, it'll come back to me. I'll have more.
What about you, George? Do you have a favourite moment from season 3?
I mean, my favourite moment filming was there's a scene where we're just having breakfast, and I mean, it's a very exciting story. Buckle in, guys. And I mean, it's really simple. I had to have some orange juice, but honestly, the amount of takes that we did for that scene, I'm just like tucking into this orange juice, and I get this huge sugar rush, And as I'm going on, I'm like, right, I'm on the up, and then we do take after take, setup after setup, and I'm just like a waning force. So by the end of it, I was just an absolute shell of a man, hopped up on our orange juice. Yeah.
And what about you, Laurie? I mean, this is probably is going to feel like choosing between your children because you did create the show. But do you have one of your favourite moments to share from season 3?
I think it's so hard because it's such an ensemble piece. It's so difficult to sort of like choose a moment. There's a scene in episode 8 that's between Jakob and Ola, and it makes me cry every time. And I think it's just the way that they perform it, and it's quite unexpected. And I absolutely love that scene. So I'm going to go with that.
It's a great choice. It's a great choice. So, Laurie, sex education is celebrated for its approach to diversity and representation on screen. That is the consistent response that people say about it. They love it for that. Was this always important for you to include in the show?
Yeah, it was something that I felt that was very important from early on. And I've learned a lot, actually, as well, like throughout the process of making it. And now we're sort of 3 series in. I think when I started writing the show, I was a bit naive, and I knew that I wanted it to be very diverse, but I think I was maybe coming at it more from a sort of like a colorblind sort of perspective. You know, we had a few characters in there that were like very specifically written in terms of their identities, but I was sort of like, I just wanted it to feel inclusive. And as the series has progressed, I've realized that when you've got a white writer who is like leading that process, colorblind doesn't work, and it has to be very, very intentional and very, very specific. And so that's been like an ongoing like learning process with me, and so now everything's written in a very kind of specific and intentional way, right from the start of the writing process in the writer's room, and you know the writers that we work with, and then all the way through that process.
George and Chinenye, how important is it to you that TV and film does reflect the lives of others? Again, speaking to the fact that sex education is so representative of a lot of people's experiences, how important is that for you? George, I'll go with you.
I mean, incredibly. I mean, particularly within the sort of teen sort of romance genre, it's so important because the point of the genre is for it to be a representation of what teen life is like. And therefore, if that representation is false in the sense that it doesn't allow people from various backgrounds, various minority groups or whatever to feel seen and to not, if they don't see themselves, then that's fundamentally the genre lying to you. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just incredibly important for that to exist. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful to be a part of a show that has that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think diversity is always important, and not just diversity in front of the camera. Yeah. Diversity behind the camera is really important, because these are the people that shape how the show looks. And I think Lauren Evans has done an amazing job casting the show and making it as diverse as it is and choosing us. But yeah, I feel that, I think it's important to see yourself represented on screen, right? Because if you don't see yourself on screen, you don't think you can do it. So it's important.
Yeah, I agree completely. I wanted to speak a little bit about the more intimate scenes of sex education.
The fun scenes.
Yeah, the fun scenes, scenes.
There's so much,
Tell me a little bit about how that works. Is there an intimacy coach on set? I'd love to hear about sort of that process, and also how important it is to make the actors who are involved in those scenes feel comfortable on set when you're doing those scenes.
Yeah.
I'll open it to...
well, I suppose from my perspective of my Isaac's scene with Maeve, sorry if you haven't seen any of that. But we'd spoken about that scene for a while, and what we realised is that let's, if we were to say, because it's clearly it's a cultural moment of having a person with disability having a scene like that, but as soon as you go into that thinking, right, well, this is going to be this huge cultural moment, you begin to lose sight of what actually is happening there, and it's two people who care for each other, you know, having an intimate moment. So the success of that scene is really centered around just two characters that understand one another, and then bringing that to life is great in terms of, you know, you need to make sure that the boring logistics of disability are explained in terms of what Isaac needs, but it's also the communication between the two of them. And then obviously we've got the wonderful intimacy coordinator. So we have the wonderful David Thackeray, who was very, very great on sets. Yeah, and it's just being open in those things, in those situations. Yeah, that was fun.
I guess working with David, he made it like steps, like a routine. So you had to follow these things to make everyone feel safe in that moment. And I think intimacy coordinators are so important for actors because a while ago they didn't exist. So Ita was one of the first, I think, with I May Destroy You coming in and helping out. But yeah, I think David, everyone who's an intimacy coordinator has been a real big help.
Yeah, basically their job is, it's very similar to, you know, if you were choreographing a fight, like some kind of like battle sequence, you'd have a fight coordinator.
Yeah.
And to me, it's sort of mind-blowing that these conversations about intimacy coordination are only sort of happening now, because you just think, you know, if we had fight coordinators, why didn't we have intimacy coordinators? And, you know, you hear real horror stories of, you know, directors who just who in the past have felt too uncomfortable, literally just said to the actors, oh, you just go off and rehearse the scene, and then we'll come back and shoot it. And nobody is safe in that situation. But then I also think beyond that, you know, if a sex scene is written well, it should be telling you something more about the characters, and it should be driving the story forwards. So the intimacy coordinator is, in a way, sort of helping to direct that scene and to make sure that everything that happens in that scene it's telling a story.
Yeah.
It's always a closed set as well. So
Yeah.
that means like limited people, so everyone feels safe and comfortable to just do the work.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you all. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the writing of sex education and sort of the evolution over the 3 seasons. For you all, and Laurie, I guess we can start with you. How do you think that the series has evolved over time? You spoke a little bit about how you'd approached it at the start in terms of diversity inclusion, how that sort of expanded as you spoke with more people, worked with more people. What do you see as its evolution as it stands?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
So in series 1, like Eric was written in an incredibly specific way, because we knew that his storyline was completely centered around his intersectionality. Whereas there were other characters where it really felt like we knew we were going to have, like, you know, a diverse cast, but maybe it hadn't been baked into that writing as much.
Right.
And then it just became more and more important to me. I think actually probably through the telling of Eric's story and how much that resonated with people, and, you know, the black writers that we had in the room, and how much they had just channeled a lot of their own experiences into the writing of that, that we just needed more of that. And I think for that reason, that's why the show just keeps, probably much to Netflix's annoyance, getting bigger and bigger, and we just keep adding more and more characters and trying to get, more specific. And for me, I think the thing that's really important is that the characters are never defined by their identity, but at the same time, I want it to be written in a way that is really nuanced and authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. And for yourself, Chinenye, how do you feel that Viv has evolved from season 2 to season 3?
I think Viv has always been an ambitious character. That's not changed, and it shouldn't change. But I think she has opened herself up to more friendships,
Yeah.
which she didn't allow previously. She was just very one-track minded. She has a new boyfriend, so she's allowing that. She's allowing love into her life, which is really sweet. She's like a butterfly. She's come out of her shell this season, and she's doing bits. She's doing bits.
George, what about Isaac?
I think Isaac, I think particularly when he came to the caravan site, he had his defense up, and his defense mechanism in order to keep people away is just to be a bit of an arse, which is so much fun to play, guys. It's amazing. And I think during his time at the caravan site, he's realized that let people in a little bit more, but people around Maeve, and he's slowly starting to, just lower his guard, I think.
Laurie, when it comes to approaching how you'll write for each new series, could you talk a little bit about how you work with other writers in the writer's room? So I know, for example, I believe it's episode 6. Hopefully I haven't got this wrong. Great. Temi Wilkie, the episode for where Eric goes to Nigeria. Can you just talk about that relationship and how you sort of scout those writers, work with those writers, build those episodes out?
So I run a writer's room for every series with my story producer, Claire Couchman, and my script editor, Lucy Arditi. And we usually work with about 5 to 7 writers, depending on the series, and like how many episodes each writer will write. And that writer's room goes for about 5 weeks. We do leave the room, like we go home and sleep. But it is, to be honest, it is like an incredibly long dinner party. Like it's a dinner party that goes for 5 weeks and gets more and more surreal, and by the end it sort of feels like we've joined a cult. Like it's very strange. That process really is me. I go in with a sort of skeleton as to like what I want to explore in the series, where I want to take the characters, and then together as a group we really flesh that out and have, it's basically it's conversations, and then trying to translate those conversations into story beats. And we work in quite an old school way. We use cards, like post-it notes, and everything's like moving around and shifting all the time. And then following that, I write the outlines for each episode. So each episode has an outline that's about 10 pages long. And then each writer gets one of those outlines, and then they go off and start drafting the scripts, and we go through multiple drafts until we get to shoot it. Yeah.
And so for the cast, do they have any idea, like for example at the end of season 2, did either of you have any idea what was going to happen in season 3 before you got the script and you're like, oh, okay.
I just take what's given.
There you go. Okay.
No, I don't think we did know. Right?
No, I didn't. I mean, part of it is we're just fans ourselves, so we're just going.
Yeah.
We're just fans who get a bit like we just get the scripts beforehand, so we know before anyone else, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I tried to piece as much together from the fallouts, let's say, from the conclusion of season 2. I was like, right, I'm trying to, with a.
You can kind of imagine what could happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with like a ball of yarn and a big
Exactly.
mind map sort of thing. Right, okay. Conspiracy theory
Where
time.
are we going now?
Yeah.
I have a question though. When the scripts arrive, do you read them from beginning to end, or do you just look for your scenes?
Oh, that is
Well.
a good question.
No, so
Look over there!
So for series 2, I obviously came in series 2, and I was just so excited to be involved, so I just read everything ever. So
Every book in the world.
it was crazy how much I consumed. I probably should have been studying, but I think with series 3, I was like, okay, that was cool, but that was very draining. So for this year, I've just read my scenes, and it was really hard during the read through because I was trying to like keep up to pace so I didn't miss any of my bits, but not listen to anyone else's bits because I wanted to keep it fresh for myself. And that has been a lovely viewing experience, actually.
Oh, so you can just like watch it as a fan then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I just read my bits.
Guys, you're killing me.
You know what I mean? No, but I do hear it during the reading, and I'm like, nice.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that makes sense because when we do the read through, your reactions are always.
I'm like, what?
He's always like, what? I'm like,
Jean's pregnant, what?
yeah, I think at one point you were like, is Jean gonna die? It's making so much sense.
Great answer. Love the honesty. Love the honesty.
It is what it is.
I wanted to pick up on what you mentioned earlier, Chinenye, about when you were improvising that scene where you were trying to sit down with Jemima. How much do the cast get to collaborate on the scenes that they're in and improvise when it comes to rehearsal and on set?
I think we get a lot of chances to improvise. So we do like this rehearsal before we do the actual take, and I just throw out some stuff. There was like a line in it when I first see Jemima's character, and I say, I believe, she's kind of like Joan of Arc, but cooler, improvised. Best line of the season. No, but I think it's really fun. Like, that's why set is really fun.
Yeah.
You can just throw out ideas and just do anything we want, and it's really like school, which is very nice.
Yeah, I think that because of the nature of, the writing and the whole idea of the characters and that is that the actors, we are given a lot of, I think we're allowed to sort of be like, right, George and Chinenye, you know these characters really well, so you can, play around with it, and if it's crap, we'll edit it out.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But
Which is
also,
nice.
like, it's all in the text, so sometimes we don't need to improvise.
Yeah.
The writing's so strong, it's all there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're just
that's
like,
credit to
you'll come up with a line, and it's like, yeah, could do that, or
you. Yeah, Ben's like, oh, let's do that.
yeah, do the line that's much better because it's yeah.
How do you find the balance of laugh out loud comedy, drama, relatable themes, and the frank discussion of sex? There is a lot going on in
Yeah.
sex education.
How the fuck do you do
How'd you
this?
do that? How'd you do that, Laurie? Tell us.
I don't know. I think for me, I'm always trying to approach it as a comedy first.
Right.
And I think that's my way into the material. I think that it means, if you're able to make people laugh, if you're able to, like people can tune in and watch it and know they're going to have a good time and they're going to be entertained, then I think you can tell a story like Amy's story in series 2, which is a much darker, but still, particularly because Amy Lou is just so funny, you're still sort of laughing in the middle of the pain, and I think for me, that's the sort of tone of writing I'm always drawn to in other people's work. It's a sort of like happy, sad feeling, which I just think sort of is reflective of being human. Like it's, the lightness and the darkness, they're always there at the same time. So I just try and kind of keep the comedy first, and then try not to be afraid to kind of explore those darker themes.
But sex is funny, isn't it? Sex is funny, it's scary, it's all the emotions, so it's like all encapsulated, is that a word?
It is.
Whatever. It's all of that, so I guess that's where you kind of got your things from.
Yeah, sex does not have to be serious. And
Yeah.
also you just think like if more people could know that actually it is a bit silly and you can laugh, then maybe everyone would have better experiences with it. I
And
would
take away
hope.
the shame of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. George and Chinenye, I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of your introduction into sex education. Obviously, you mentioned that you were a fan before. What was your acting background before this? What had you done before? How did you get involved? And why did you want to be involved in sex education?
Struggling actor. No. I did National Youth Theatre before, and we did like a rep company that was like 9 months. And from that, I got an agent, but then I didn't work for like a year, and I got dropped by that said agent. Look at me now. But yeah, I just spent my
Plotting
time
your revenge.
plotting. I was like, you know what, I'm going to get in
Something's
something.
coming in the post.
Sex ed. No, I spent my time that year out as a gap year and just trying to like work on myself. I got a job as an usher. I was doing all of that. And then I was agentless, and I heard that they were casting sex ed for the Grapevine. And I was like, how do I get on this show? So I emailed a couple of agents and just asked for meetings. And one person got back to me, my agent now, Joe Powell. And at the end of that meeting, I was just like, you know what? I heard they're casting sex ed. Could you get me an audition? And then the next day, he got me an audition. And then it just went through there. And yeah, I passed all the stages, and I got Viv. And I think there's a video on my Instagram that shows him coming to my house and like handing me like the scripts, and I was like, ah! It was like the best moments of my life. But also like I remember like coming to talks like this and just looking at the people on stage and be like, I'm gonna be there one day. Yeah, full circle.
Really nice answer.
You don't have to clap. Oh no!
You got to beat that, George. What do you
Innit?
say?
Go on.
Right. So, hi. So I had always been interested in drama. There's a video on my Instagram of me when I'm 7 years old saying I want to be a comedy actor when I grow up. Didn't realise that existed until I got censored. Very strange. And then I did various, school plays, blah, blah, blah. And then something happened that I, now sit down a bit more. But after that, I went to university to study philosophy and decided to pass the time I would do a screen acting course locally. And through that, I got an agent. And through that, I got 2 auditions. One was for the role of a wheelchair user with maggots coming out of his arse.
What, for this show?
I did no, not this one. I think they cut that character. Was it? No, I didn't get that role. Gutted. And then my second audition was for sex ed. How? And it all spiraled out of control. And now I'm talking to you, lovely people. Lovely.
You get a clap too.
Fantastic answers. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the style and production of sex education. Laurie, why did you choose the visual style of sex education? It's very distinct. A lot of people have commented on it. Can you talk us through a little bit how you'd envisioned it? Did you come up with that idea? Did you work with somebody else to sort of envision what it would look like?
It was a real collaborative effort. So our lead director, Ben Taylor, is completely obsessed with 1980s teen films. When I first met him, one of the things that we sort of started talking about and kind of had a shared passion for was those films, and then also a lot of 90s teen films, early 2000s, like things like 10 Things I Hate About You, which I still think is a masterpiece. And it was really through those conversations that I think the style sort of emerged, and because the show has got such a heightened hook, it's really asking people to take a leap of faith to believe that this kid's giving out sex advice in a toilet. I don't think there's a social realist version of that show. So we knew that it kind of needed this like really heightened, like elevated feeling to it, and it sort of came out of those conversations. And we, when we were pitching it to Netflix, we made a Bible which kind of talked through where all the characters were going to go, and it was just full of all of the images from those films. It also was covered in tiny penises, which we paid someone to draw, and I would love to know who that person was. But I think we went through multiple drafts as well, where we were like, can you make that penis a bit bigger, and can that one have a bit more semen? Like it was a really, and it's I think it's on the internet somewhere, it's floating around, but it was sort of like very baked in from the start. And some people love it, and other people still find it completely mind-boggling, where they watch it and go, "Where is this show set?" But yeah, we love it, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that question, despite people saying, oh, where is it set, do you think that styling and production helps it to translate globally as opposed to specifically saying, okay, this is where it's going to be set, X, Y, Z?
I think that there's been a certain amount of alchemy that has sort of happened. I don't think that it wasn't in our pitch, to be like, this is going to help it translate or be global.
Right.
Or translate in a global way. But I think there's something about the fact that you can't quite pinpoint it. And I don't know, to me, I always imagine it a bit like a comic book or something. Like, it's like, this is this place where these teenagers exist, and all the themes are from our world, but it's not really our world. And I think it allows people of all generations to recognize something in it of the teenage experience.
Yeah, sure. What elements do you think make sex education feel distinctly British?
Curly whirly? I don't know. I think a lot of Americans were like, what is a curly whirly? There's a curly whirly joke in series 1.
Yeah,
But the actual thing is not a curly whirly, though.
I think we couldn't get the right.
It's an actual...
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? Wow,
I
you
don't
really
know.
are a super fan.
yeah,
What is it?
I'm like, I should know
Well,
that.
no,
as well.
because, I mean, Connor or Adam puts it in his mouth in a very distinct way, and I just think you wouldn't be able to get an actual curly whirly in the face. It's more of a ladder, isn't it? Sorry.
I think
I feel
Sidetracks on the yeah.
the curly whirly.
Yeah.
a lot of the characters, though, that I really recognised from my school age.
Yeah.
I knew a Viv. I knew a Jackson.
Yeah.
I knew everyone. So that, for me, makes it feel very British, very Hackney. But it's not Hackney. But it feels familiar for me and kind of like a home for a lot of people as well, maybe.
There's something, I think there's something in the humour that is quite eccentric as well,
Yeah.
and I do think we, the Brits do eccentricity quite well. So I think there's something, a bit kind of madcap in it, and that feels quite British to me. That and the curly whirly.
The curly
Yeah.
whirly is definitely.
Yeah, I think, but there's no character selling Lucasades out of a
Oh, I saw that.
I saw that the other day.
I saw that
That's so
comment.
good.
Yeah. That is true British.
Can you tell us a bit about the locations that you actually use to film? Where are they? What makes them unique to sex education?
So we shoot, most of the show is shot in Wales, and we shoot on a school, like an abandoned school campus, or I think it was a university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, we're really lucky because we're able to sort of shoot the exteriors, and then the interiors, a lot of the hallways and stuff are just kind of part of that building. But then all of our interior sets are sort of set up within the old gymnasium, in that space. And then from there, the location manager is able to find these incredible Welsh locations, which are just so beautiful. And and I think it's so funny as well because again, quite often you'll hear people kind of go, well, it's not Britain doesn't look like this, and it's not sunny, and you go, well, it's real. They're all, I read it the other day. I did read someone had written in a review that we shot it in somewhere near Amsterdam or something, and I was like, we definitely do not.
Newport.
But yeah, it's just we're so lucky, and the location manager is just brilliant and finds these incredible places. So yeah, I don't go to set as much as these guys, but I've heard it's a nice place to
It's all right.
spend time.
When you're not filming, what do you each miss most from set when you're there? I guess this is a question for Chinenye and George, since you spend the most time there.
When say that again?
When you're not filming, what do you miss most about filming on set when you're in Wales?
I guess the people,
Yeah.
like the cast. I think we've become such a family, which is, I think, really rare for a lot of things. But yeah, definitely, I just remember me and Kida just like cooking in our flats for people, and I was just like, oh, what a moment. Yeah, I definitely missed the cast.
Yeah, I'd say exactly the same, really. Yeah, it's all lovely.
And the crew.
Oh, yeah. They go
Yeah. Keep your job.
Okay, let's talk about the fan reaction to season 3. Earlier, I was speaking to you both about, congratulating you on season 3. What's it been like? What has the fan reaction been like to this season for each of you?
Mad, really. It's been great. It's been so lovely to see, the fan reaction to everything, to how they have. The people seem to like my character now, which is, a new experience. Yeah, it's been lovely.
Isaac deserved justice, and I'm glad.
It's been good. It's always nice to like talk to fans and because I know they see themselves in our characters, so it's really nice to be like, well done, congratulations. And I think the response to my character has been a bit up and down this season because she was the snitch. So people are like, I hate her now. And I'm like, why? She's great. She does the right thing in the end. But we love the fans, and we're top 10 everywhere. It's mad.
Yeah.
Mad.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's such a surreal experience being on a show like this, and you never imagine it. And working with such amazing people is a dream, a dream come true. Because it is.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by the audience reaction to each of the series so far?
Yeah.
It still feels completely surreal to me. I remember before series 1 came out, because usually like the reviews are embargoed up until a certain point, and this reviewer broke the embargo and reviewed us a week before the show came out and gave us half a star and said it was the worst thing that they'd ever seen. And I remember just like lying awake at night being like, and that is the end of my career.
Oh, God.
So then, yeah, in some ways it was kind of good because it was like, low expectations, and then I was like, oh, like people do actually like it. So it's been and that kind of surreal feeling has never really gone away for me, and sort of, just seeing that it's connecting with people and people are invested with these characters. Like the whole Ruby Otis thing that has sort of broken out after this series is. Yeah. I called my puppy Ruby, my lockdown puppy, because I love that character, and so now I'm like, you deserve your namesake. Yeah.
You spoke a bit about all of the different stories and how they keep evolving and adding more stories. Are there ever any stories or any stories in season 3 that you were nervous about telling?
In series 3?
Yeah.
To be honest, I think because the subject matter is so sensitive, because the whole show is about sex and relationships, all of the stories make me nervous all the time, because I think, myself and the writing team, we just really want to get it as right as possible, and we want to make sure that we're sort of contributing to the conversation in a way that feels healthy and helpful. We work with some really amazing sex educators who consult on like all of the storylines, and so we're kind of constantly having these conversations, and like learning all the time. But I'm not going to lie, it definitely is quite nerve-wracking because I think the material's just so personal, and then we're also dealing with a lot of intersectionality, and you just want to make sure that you don't have any blind spots and you're not kind of getting something like really drastically wrong. But I think also at the same time, like you can only make, you can't make a show that's going to be for everyone and kind of make everyone happy, and you just have to know in your heart that you're trying your best and that you have put the work in.
How did you go about writing Cal's story? Did you feel like it was quite scary to do because you might say the wrong thing and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, I think that storyline in particular has been actually amazing to write, and I've learnt so much through it. But we worked really closely with a couple of different non-binary consultants, and then also once we cast Dua, who is non-binary themselves, we were engaging in a lot of conversations with them, and it was very much a process of just trying to kind of just dig deeper and deeper and try and work out what's the most sort of nuanced version of that story. And I think, with Cal meeting Jackson, I really wanted to sort of show a relationship where two people are just instantly drawn to each other, because I think in our show we have a lot of love-hate and a lot of love triangles, whereas sometimes in life, you do just meet someone and you just think, oh, I'm just really attracted to you, or I feel like I know you, and you just have that instant connection. But then the big question from that became about, well, what does that mean for Jackson? If Jackson is going to be in a relationship with Cal, then is Jackson queer, and how does Cal feel about that? And also, how does Jackson feel about that? And really, it was that part of the conversation where there is no way I could have written that in a vacuum, and we needed to have very, very specific feedback and conversations on that to sort of get it right. And the scene at the end where they kind of go their separate ways or break up with each other, I'm very proud of that scene. I think it's, and hopefully they will stay friends in the future and kind of keep that connection, but in a sort of platonic way rather than a romantic way.
That's a really good question, Chinenye. It's all right. no, please. It was a great question. How do you, because obviously the fans are extremely vocal, as someone who runs one of the channels for Netflix UK, extremely vocal about sex education and about what they want for the characters. I'd seen people talk about how they wanted Viv and Jackson to get together. There's all sorts going on. How do you, I guess, write and stick within what you want to do and how you want the characters to develop from season 1 to 2 to 3, without, I guess, listening too much to the noise surrounding what people are expecting? That's a tough question. I apologize.
It's quite hard, because it's I'm definitely someone that does try and engage with those conversations, and I think there are some writers who would be very strict about not reading anything and kind of probably just separating themselves from it. But I think with this show it's quite important to sort of hear how people are responding. But then obviously there has to come a point where I do just have to sort of shut it off and go, okay, what do I think is the best thing for the characters? And I think writing in a lot of ways, you are just sort of working off gut instinct, because there are infinite possibilities. It's a made-up story, so it could go in any direction. And so I do sort of just have to block it out at a certain point and then decide, what's the right thing. But
will Viv and Jackson get together?
I was just going to ask. I was going to be like, do you want them to get together?
I absolutely do.
Oh, really? You're a shipper.
Yeah.
Eugene was good, though.
Don't worry about Eugene. It's about Jackson, and it just makes sense in my head.
Right.
You built it up so much, their relationship, and I'm just like, I want to see them together. Don't you? Don't you? Woo!
Not you pressuring poor Laurie. She's in the middle I'm
like Wendy Williams. What about you?
Okay, I'm going to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So for George, for you, do you have, I know we already spoke about your favourite moments, but do you have a favourite storyline from season 3? Doesn't even have to involve Isaac, but are there any other storylines that you particularly like, big or small?
I mean, every single scene where Jean is in the hospital just killed me.
Yeah.
That really got to me, sort of watching every single time that, when we've all watched it, right? Okay.
This is too spoiled now. The whole thing is.
Yeah, I won't go into it.
No, do it. It's their own fault.
But yeah, it's just that fragility of existence that's presented in those moments and what that means in terms of, you know, her relationship with Otis, her relationship with Jakob. That whole thing just,
Yeah.
got me.
And she's the king of everything.
She is the king of everything.
She's Gillian's added that to her Instagram now. She says, shag specialist, king of everything.
Oh,
Great.
Love that.
that's good.
What about you, Chinenye?
I think Ruby's storyline, like her being carer,
Yeah.
really got me because I think a lot of people are struggling with that, and it's never pushed to the forefront. And I guess the reason why Ruby is so harsh on the surface is because she's dealing with so much shit in the background, but she is this sweet person who's just like dealing with her dad, and there's something about that just makes me feel really sad for her. I think her character's really like transformed, and yeah, it's really good to see.
I just love you guys both pick like the saddest moments.
No.
Like I'm really into the sad stuff.
And the flying poo.
And the fun.
That was
The
it.
flying
Yeah.
poo that is my favourite bit from season
Yeah, that was good. And then like when we were all dressed up as like like penises and vaginas,
Wasn't
that
there-
was
I-
a good time because
I-
Kedar directed that actually.
Wasn't
Yeah.
he? I wasn't there on that day.
Oh, you weren't
He was
there?
directing it
And he was in it.
in a massive cock costume.
Yeah.
Vulva.
Like-
Vulva.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry,
You were in the
sorry.
top one.
It was involved, but like I remember me and him creating the routine to get onto the little like podium, and we were just having. Why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah.
We were just having a lot of fun, just like doing it and being, and we just realized what we were wearing, and we were like, we are ridiculous. But yeah, I think that was one of the great highlight for me as well.
When you read through the script altogether and you read things like Jackson will be dressed as a vulva, Viv will be a penis, what's the sort of reaction there? Are you all taking it very seriously and seriously like, right, yep, penis, and
Yeah.
yep? Or are you like, this is...
I action every word. I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? She's sad. No, I think that came really late though, didn't it? It was like a really late addition.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm ready for anything. Let's give it a go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we redrafted the protest scene about 23 times.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
It
wow.
was- yeah, we just couldn't quite get to like what it needed to be, and like the balance of they're saying something really important, but it needs to feel funny, and it's I mean to the point where I actually haven't watched Ep 7 on Netflix yet because it slightly gives me like PTSD.
Oh, God.
I'm just like, never write a protest again. It was painful.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But it
There
was
are
a great
a couple
scene.
of moments in season 3 that I think are I mean, you both have talked about really sad moments, and there is a particular moment where the head teacher brings Cal, Lily
Oh, yeah.
on stage and makes them wear this, and it's a heartbreaking scene. Those kind of scenes, how hard is it for you to write and also to like watch your colleagues act and just to see those things, because they're so difficult, I think, to watch.
Yeah, I think that scene in particular, because it is again like very heightened. However, I don't know. I mean, if you look at what is happening in certain states in America right now, I mean, we're not that far away from it. I think we'd like to think that we all live in this very kind of liberal and like progressive world, but we really don't. And yeah, I remember writing that scene. Just, I mean, for all three of them, but particularly Lily, who I think, even though on the surface she sort of comes across as this very kind of confident character, she's actually underneath it hasn't got a huge amount of resilience. So it felt heartbreaking to kind of put her in that position. But I think Tanya is so beautiful in that scene, and then also getting to see this like sort of other side of her as a character, and realize that she needs support just as much as anyone else. But yeah, sometimes I do feel a bit guilty about putting them through it. But then I'm like, you're actors.
Yeah,
You enjoy
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so why do you think it's important to have dramas such as Sex Education produced for television and streaming?
Why do I think it's important?
Yeah.
Um,
Any one of you can take it. You don't have to just leave Laurie to do it.
Go on. You do the heavy lifting.
I don't know. I think I'd like to hope that in some way the show, is sort of like living up to its title, and there is a sort of educational element in it. And I think that I think now that I'm sort of 3 series into writing it, I sort of don't feel afraid to say that the show does have an agenda, and that I hope that these kind of conversations start to happen more, in people's homes and then also at school, because I think if we're going to tackle things like, particularly like toxic masculinity and, more of a widespread understanding of consent, like we have to have these difficult conversations, and I think that is very much at the heart of the show. And I do think, particularly teen shows, I think that they do have a responsibility to kind of put forward a message that is healthy and not damaging.
Yeah, I'd say that it just, just overall, we just need more representation of everything, really, whether it's, people of colour or people with disabilities. I think it's time that we see more of that, because it's been too long.
Yeah.
I think sex ed is really important, because I guess the conversation around sex is always ever changing. So I think it's important for everyone to see, and Netflix is such a big platform and millions of people watch it. So they take away the shame from sex, which is great. And in a fun way, it's educational, and those conversations are never spoken about. So sex ed is kind of revolutionary in a way.
Yeah, I was in public the other day, and a grandma came up to me and was like, I never knew about douching. It is 11:30 in the morning.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that experience common when it comes to people coming up to you, or is that just something that happens to you?
3 or 4 times a week. No, that is not.
I think people definitely, they feel a bit more comfortable sharing things that they might not have shared before.
Yeah. Sure. So what for you makes Netflix the right place to watch sex education? Is obviously you can watch it all at once. So there are people that genuinely, when it dropped, season 3, watched it in 8 hours.
I know.
It was ridiculous. Laurie, when you were pitching the show, did you ever imagine that it could? Have you ever thought about what it would be like if it was like a weekly thing instead of it being one that comes all out? Is there a particular reason why you wanted to go for Netflix? Not to plug Netflix.
I had written the pilot episode of Sex Education quite a few years before Netflix picked it up. And I had tried to get it off the ground at various channels in the UK, and I think it just wasn't quite the right moment for that particular show, and I think people didn't quite know what to do with it. And I really thought that it had died a death, and I'd sort of grieved those characters. I was like, I'm never going to write them again. And then somebody at Netflix read it, and it sort of it came back to life. And I remember when the pilot episode had been rejected from various places, at the time that felt very much like the be-all and end-all of everything. But now, in retrospect, I think it's a really amazing thing that it did end up on Netflix, because they've really allowed us to tell the story in the way that we want to tell it. They're actually very hands-off, they're very involved creatively, and they're obviously there across every step of the process, and they're always giving notes, but they're never prescriptive, and they really do trust the creators and the creative team to tell the stories that we want to tell. And I think I often think about episode 3 in series 1, the abortion episode, and I wonder whether if it had been on another platform or with another channel, I don't know whether we would have been allowed to do that 3 episodes into a show that was supposed to be a comedy. I think, but Netflix, they were really willing to take that risk. So yeah, it's worked out well. But at the same time, I would say it wasn't like loads of people were knocking down my door. It was like it was Netflix or
Well,
nothing.
more fool on them, because look at you now.
There's an amazing lesson in that. Like when you think one door is shut, there's another one open, and what's for you won't pass you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I even think what you were saying earlier, Chinenye, about the agent that you had before who wasn't, it didn't work out, and you had a year. And I know you joked about being a struggling actor, but I think there's even a lesson in that, isn't there? About obviously now you're on a really successful show and people know who you are, and the same with you, Jordan, the same with you, Laurie. You've obviously created it, but it didn't start there. There's all this work that happened beforehand that none of us see and know about. There's all these things that happened, before Netflix picked it up that none of us see, and we just see the success. But there was a lot that went into that, and you've all worked really hard. And I'm so proud, even though I didn't know you guys before this show.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk just generally about Sex Education as a show rather than just season 3, and just ask you what's your favourite thing about Sex Education? It can be about the show in general or being on the show, but what is your favourite thing?
I think it's just the respect that Laurie and her writing team give the characters, and you've spoken about sort of the writing process, and not only in equal parts whether they're part of a minority or whatever, their characteristics are relevant and totally irrelevant simultaneously. So the fact that, so Isaac with his disability, he's not a disabled character. He is a character who, his means of transport has wheels. And I think the way that you, Laurie, write that is so great, and you can, the ways in which aspects of his disability flare up. So that scene at the top of Otis's stairs, that's happened to me several times, let's put it that way. And I have had people that I've met for the very first time yeet me down the stairs, let's say, a few times. And the way that, like I said, the way that it respectfully speaks to its characters and speaks about its characters and puts them in lovely, lovely roles. Words, yeah.
That's a lovely answer. What about yourself, Laurie?
My favourite thing, I mean, obviously, I love working with everyone on the show, and it's such a collaborative, TV, it is, you are nothing without your collaborators, basically, because it's just, the workload is so big, so everyone has to kind of be giving 100% in order for it to happen and for it to work. But I think for me, it really is working with the writing team, and so the story producer and the script editor, we've become so incredibly close through this experience of working together. I speak to them all day, every day, to the point where, it's quite unhealthy. And yeah, I dread the day that I'm not going to get to work with them anymore, but I think it's just, we've been able to kind of create this, I guess, a little utopia of a kind of working experience together. And the team of writers that I work with are, it's very diverse, it's very queer, it's majority female, and it just feels like a really, it's kind of like a hug, a nice little hug, but at work. And I'm scared about the day that ends, because I know that not every working experience is going to be like that. So,
I think my favourite thing about Sex Ed is being able to bring a character like Viv alive. You never see girls like that, do you, on screen? And just to give her some life, and be a black character living in this space, and being free to be ambitious, to be happy, it's great. And I think another one of my favorite things is the crew, the cast. it's such a collaborative process. So working with all of you guys has really, really been a blessing.
Great answer.
Oh my God, we are a cult. Look at us. We're like, let's all like hold hands.
Get the Kool-Aid out.
Okay, so we've got only 2 minutes left. I'm like awkwardly looking at this clock. So my last question to all three of you is going to be, what are you most proud of from season 3? Let's end it on a high note. Because you should be proud. So what are you most proud? Chinenye, I'm starting with you. I know you was looking at Laurie. I saw you. I'm coming for you. What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of Viv. She has done bits in this season. She's led a revolution. She's got back together. She has a hot boyfriend. There might be something in the mix for her and Jackson. Who knows? But yeah, I'm very proud of her living her Black experience and doing it proudly.
Great answer. Laurie, what are you most proud of?
Oh gosh, it's quite hard to pick. I think I'm really proud that we have finally got some non-binary / trans representation on the show. I think that was like incredibly important, and I'm really hoping that if we get another series, we can just like continue that and have more of that, because I think it's just such an essential conversation that is happening right now.
George, what about you?
I'm very proud of the scene with Isaac and Maeve. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very, very proud of not only being a part of that scene and it on screen. It's just the most, tender, delicate scene, and it's approached in such a wonderful way. Yeah.
It's so good.
Very good. George, Laurie, Chinenye, thank you so much for talking with me. That's the end of the panel. Thank you so much.
Like clapping ourselves.
Good.